I was always the black sheep in my family. Being the youngest of four siblings in our middle-class Boston home meant I was either ignored or treated like a baby. My brother Adam and sisters Julie and Sarah were all at least 8 years older than me, creating a natural divide that only grew with time. When they each got married, I discovered just how little I meant to them when not a single invitation came my way. I never expected that years later, as I planned my own wedding to Natalie, I would uncover the ultimate betrayal. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button before I tell you how I discovered what really happened at my fiancée's bachelorette party and the pregnancy bombshell that followed. Growing up as the youngest child in a family of 6 was never easy. The age gap between me and my siblings meant that by the time I had clear memories, Adam was already heading to college with Julie and Sarah not far behind. My parents worked hard to support us, but their attention was always divided unfairly. While my siblings received constant praise for their achievements, my accomplishments often went unnoticed or were minimized. I still remember the day I won first place in the state science competition during sophomore year. I came home excited to share the news, only to find my parents on the phone celebrating Adam getting a promotion at his first real job. My trophy sat untouched on the kitchen counter for weeks before quietly disappearing into a storage box in the garage. Despite the emotional distance, I believed we were still family. I admired my older siblings and desperately wanted their approval. I worked extra jobs through high school to save for college, watching as my parents helped finance my siblings through their higher education. When it came time for me to attend, the college fund had mysteriously dried up. I took out loans and worked 30 hours a week while maintaining a full course load in computer science. Through determination and countless sleepless nights, I graduated with honors and secured a position at a respected software company. No one from my family attended the ceremony. My mother claimed she had the flu while my father stayed home to care for her. My siblings all had prior commitments that apparently could not be rescheduled. The first real blow came when Adam announced his engagement to Kimberly. I was 22 at the time and excited to finally participate in a significant family event. I assumed that as his only brother, I might even be asked to be a groomsman. The engagement party came and went without an invitation, which my mother explained away as a small, intimate gathering. As the wedding date approached, I waited for details or an invitation. When nothing arrived 3 weeks before the date, I finally called Adam directly. The conversation is permanently etched in my memory. I can still hear his uncomfortable cough before he said, "Look, Carlos, we had to make some tough decisions about the guest list. Budget constraints, you know. Nothing personal." I might have accepted this explanation had I not logged onto Facebook later that day and seen posts from distant cousins we barely knew discussing their excitement about attending the upcoming wedding. Relatives from across the country, who had not seen Adam in years, had somehow made the cut while I, his only brother, had not. When I confronted him about this discovery, Adam became defensive. "You always make everything about yourself," he snapped. "This is my wedding day, not another opportunity for you to play the victim." Stunned by his reaction, I turned to my parents for support. Their response was even more hurtful. "Carlos, you need to grow up," my father said sternly. "Your brother is getting married, and instead of being happy for him, you are creating unnecessary drama. This is exactly why they made the decision they did." The implication that I deserved to be excluded from my own brother's wedding cut deeper than I could express. I retreated into my work, putting in even longer hours and channeling my hurt into professional success. Within a year, I had received 2 promotions and moved into my own apartment, deliberately choosing a location that put physical distance between me and my family. 3 years after Adam's wedding, I met Natalie at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was presenting a paper on security protocols, and she asked the most insightful question during the Q&A session. Later, we bumped into each other at the conference reception and ended up talking for hours. Natalie was brilliant, kind, and shared my passion for technology. Unlike my family, she listened when I spoke and valued my opinions. Our relationship developed naturally, first as professional colleagues who consulted on projects, then as friends who spent weekends hiking and exploring new restaurants, and finally as a couple deeply in love. The contrast between Natalie's family and mine could not have been more striking. The Hendersons welcomed me immediately. including me in Sunday dinners and holiday celebrations. Natalie's father, Richard, taught me how to grill the perfect steak, while her mother, Diana, shared family recipes and stories. They asked questions about my work and actually remembered the details when following up later. With Natalie, I began to heal. We moved in together after a year of dating and bought our first home 6 months later. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. I even began to hope that with my newfound stability and happiness, the relationship with my family might improve. Just as Natalie and I were settling into our life together, my sister Julie announced her engagement to her boyfriend of 5 years, Thomas. Despite the history with Adam's wedding, I reached out to congratulate her and offered to help with any technology needs for the event. Julie seemed receptive at first, even suggesting we meet for coffee to catch up. That coffee date never materialized. My calls went unanswered. My texts received increasingly delayed and shorter responses. I learned about wedding details through my mother, who casually mentioned venue choices and flower arrangements during our monthly phone call. 2 months before the wedding, I directly asked my mother if I should be keeping the date free. "Oh, Carlos," she said with that familiar tone of disappointment. Julie thought it would be best to keep the guest list small. "You understand, right? There has been so much tension in the family, and she wants her day to be perfect." Once again, I discovered through social media that distant relatives and Julie's casual acquaintances from college would be attending this supposedly small wedding. The excuse had changed from budget to avoiding family drama, but the result was the same. I was being erased from family milestones. When I called Julie to understand why, she was surprisingly blunt. "Carlos, you have always been difficult," she said. "Remember how you ruined Adam's engagement announcement by complaining about your student loans, or how you made a scene at Thanksgiving when Dad forgot to mention your new job? We just want a peaceful celebration without walking on eggshells around your sensitivity." I had no memory of ruining Adam's announcement. I had merely asked our parents if they might be able to help with my final semester of college, as they had done for my siblings. As for Thanksgiving, my father had spent 30 minutes praising Adam's career while ignoring the fact that I had just been promoted to lead developer on a major project. What hurt the most was watching my parents attend Julie's wedding without any protest over my exclusion. They shared photos on social media, smiling broadly in family pictures that should have included me but did not. The message was clear: I was dispensable. Natalie held me as I broke down that night, my walls finally crumbling under the weight of repeated rejection. "They do not deserve you, Carlos," she whispered fiercely. "Family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. I see your worth even if they never have." I threw myself into building a life with Natalie, trying to focus on the family we were creating rather than the one that had discarded me. We took a 2-week vacation to Italy, exploring ancient ruins and eating gelato by the Mediterranean. For brief, beautiful moments, I forgot about the hollow space inside me where family should have been. Then came Sarah's wedding. Unlike Adam and Julie, Sarah did not even bother with the pretense of excuses. I discovered she was engaged when my mother mentioned it in passing, as if it were common knowledge. The wedding was to be a destination event in Hawaii, combining a family vacation with a ceremony on the beach. I was not invited to that family vacation. I found out about the wedding after the fact when photos appeared on Instagram. My parents, with their 3 older children and respective spouses, all dressed in white and beige, smiling with tropical flowers in their hair and leash around their necks. 8 flight tickets had been purchased, 8 hotel rooms, booked 8 seats at the rehearsal dinner, and reception filled. I was not worth being the 9th. That night was the lowest point of my life. I sat alone in our home office while Natalie slept, scrolling through photo after photo of my family celebrating without me. In one particularly painful image, Sarah had captioned a sunset group shot, "Complete family happiness. Complete. Without me." I began seeing a therapist weekly, trying to process the profound sense of abandonment and rejection. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that while I could not control my family's actions, I could control how I responded to them. We worked on setting boundaries, managing expectations, and building self-worth that did not depend on their validation. It was during this period of intense emotional work that Natalie proposed to me. We were at the top of Eagle Peak, her favorite hiking trail overlooking the valley where we had first said I love you. She pulled out a simple band of tungsten and asked if I would be her family forever. You deserve a love that never makes you question your place in it, she said. Let me give you that love, Carlos. I said yes through tears, feeling a surge of hope that perhaps I could still have the family connection I craved, just not with the people I had been born to. We planned our engagement party without inviting my immediate family. Instead, we celebrated with Natalie's parents, our close friends, and a few distant relatives on my side, with whom I had maintained positive relationships. It was the happiest evening I had experienced in years, surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to be there. As we moved forward with wedding planning, I struggled with whether to invite my siblings and parents. Natalie suggested that extending invitations might be a way to finally break the cycle, offering them a chance to make a different choice this time. If they refuse, that is on them, she said. But if we do not invite them, we will never know if things could have been different. With reluctance and a small spark of hope, I sent formal invitations to my parents, Adam and Kimberly, Julie and Thomas, and Sarah and her husband, Derek. To my surprise, all of them RSVP'd affirmatively within days. My mother called, sounding more enthusiastic than she had in years. We are so happy you found someone special, Carlos. We cannot wait to meet Natalie properly. Adam sent a text suggesting we meet for drinks before the wedding to catch up. Julie asked if Natalie would like to go dress shopping with her, and Sarah offering to provide a sister's perspective since Natalie was an only child. The sudden warmth after years of cold exclusion was disorienting. Part of me wanted to believe that they had realized their mistakes and were genuinely trying to make amends. Another part remained wary, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Natalie, always more trusting than me, embraced their apparent change of heart. She began meeting my sisters for lunch and shopping trips, sometimes returning with stories about my childhood that they had shared. For the first time, it seemed like my birth family and chosen family might blend into something whole. 6 weeks before our wedding date, Natalie planned her bachelorette weekend with her college friends. At the last minute, Julie and Sarah asked if they could join, wanting to bond with their new sister-in-law. Natalie was touched by the gesture and readily agreed. I encouraged her to enjoy the weekend without worries. Have fun, make memories, and drink some water between those cocktails, I teased as I dropped her off at the airport. She kissed me goodbye, promising to text throughout the weekend. The texts I received were strange. Brief and sometimes nonsensical, they lacked Natalie's usual thoughtfulness. When I called Saturday night, she sounded distracted, and there was loud music in the background. Cannot talk now, she slurred. Julie is taking us to another club. Love you, you. On Sunday morning, I got a call from my friend Jason. He had been at his cousin's bachelor party in Atlantic City, the same city where Natalie's bachelorette party was taking place. Carlos, I saw something last night that you need to know about, he said, his voice uncharacteristically serious. I was at Sapphire Lounge around midnight when I spotted your sisters. I went to say hello, thinking they might be there with Natalie. My stomach tightened as he continued. They were with Natalie, but something did not feel right. She was extremely drunk, more than I have ever seen her. And there was a guy with them, being very familiar with Natalie. Your sisters were encouraging it, laughing and taking pictures. I gripped the phone tighter. What do you mean by familiar? I recorded a short video because I knew you would not believe me otherwise. I am sending it now. I am sorry, man, this is messed up. The video loaded seconds later. The nightclub lighting made the images grainy, but there was no mistaking Natalie in her bride-to-be sash, sitting on the lap of a man I did not recognize. As I watched in horror, she turned and kissed him deeply while my sisters cheered in the background. Julie was clearly visible, raising her glass in a toast, while Sarah held her phone up, apparently recording the moment. My world collapsed in that instant. I sat motionless, replaying the 10-second clip until my phone battery warned it was nearly dead. Then I plugged it in and continued watching, searching for some explanation, some sign that what I was seeing had an innocent interpretation. There was none. When Natalie returned that evening, I was waiting in our living room, her suitcase still by the door where the taxi driver had placed it. The video was queued on my laptop. How was your weekend? I asked quietly. She smiled tiredly. So fun but exhausting. Your sisters really know how to party. I need a shower and about 12 hours of sleep. Before that, I said, turning the laptop toward her, you need to explain this. The color drained from her face as she watched the video. When it ended, she stared at the frozen image for a long moment before looking up at me with tears in her eyes. Carlos, I can explain. I was so drunk. I barely remember anything. That is not an explanation, Natalie. That is an excuse. She collapsed onto the couch, hands shaking. It did not mean anything. Julie and Sarah said it was traditional to have one last fling before marriage. They kept buying me shots, introducing me to their friends. That guy is Adam's co-worker. They said you would never find out, and it would make me less likely to cheat after we were married if I got it out of my system now. Each word was a fresh knife in my heart. Not only had Natalie betrayed me, but my own siblings had orchestrated it. How far did it go? I asked, my voice hollow. She could not meet my eyes. I woke up in his hotel room. I don't remember everything, but we did sleep together. As this confession hung in the air between us, I noticed her suitcase had fallen over. Spilling from the open side pocket was a small box I recognized immediately as a pregnancy test. Following my gaze, Natalie let out a sob. I'm pregnant, Carlos. I took the test this morning in the airport bathroom, but I don't know. I cannot be sure. You cannot be sure if it is mine, I finished for her. After she retreated to the guest room, I began investigating further. In her drunken state, Natalie had left her phone unlocked. What I found was worse than I could have imagined. A group chat with my sisters revealed weeks of messages. They had been working to undermine our relationship from the beginning, suggesting to Natalie that I was controlling and would eventually become abusive like our father. A shocking allegation that was completely untrue. They had introduced her to Thomas Adams' co-worker months earlier, orchestrating accidental meetings and planting seeds of doubt about my fidelity. The bachelorette weekend was the culmination of their plan. Finally teaching Carlos a lesson, one message read. He always thought he was better than us. Wait until he finds out his perfect bride is just as flawed as everyone else. They had targeted my greatest vulnerability, my desire for family and genuine connection, and exploited it to cause maximum pain. I spent that night in our home office, alternating between rage, grief, and a strange, detached clarity. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Instead of confronting my siblings immediately, I took time to strategize my response. Natalie moved back to her parents' home the next day, after I calmly explained that I needed space. To her credit, she did not argue or make excuses. She simply apologized once more and left her engagement ring on the kitchen counter. I contacted a lawyer to discuss my options regarding the wedding contracts and potential paternity issues. Then I reached out to Natalie's parents, who had always treated me with kindness. I owed them the truth. Over coffee in their living room, I showed them the evidence of what had happened. Diana cried while Richard sat in stunned silence. We raised her better than this, Diana finally said. I cannot understand how she could do something so hurtful to someone she claimed to love. Richard placed a hand on my shoulder. What can we do, son? Their continued warmth toward me, despite their daughter's actions, confirmed what I had always sensed: family was about behavior, not blood. I am still sorting through my next steps, I told them. But I wanted you to hear this from me directly. Richard nodded grimly. Whatever you decide about the wedding, we will support you. Natalie is our daughter and we love her, but what she did was wrong. Actions have consequences. Over the next 2 weeks, I pretended to be processing the situation while secretly executing my plan. I told my siblings I needed time to think, but was considering forgiving Natalie. After all, I wrote in our family group chat, everyone makes mistakes. They responded with enthusiastic support for reconciliation, eager to attend the wedding they had worked so hard to sabotage. Meanwhile, I was gathering all their messages, compiling video evidence, and making alternative arrangements. I contacted all our real friends and Natalie's extended family, explaining that the venue had changed due to unforeseen circumstances. I booked a different restaurant for our reception and canceled the church ceremony, citing personal reasons and gladly paying the penalty fees. On what would have been our wedding day, I drove to the original church venue where I knew my family and Natalie would be waiting. I had asked everyone to arrive early for family photos, ensuring they would all be present. They stood awkwardly in the church vestibule, dressed in formal attire, making small talk. When I entered alone wearing a casual suit rather than my wedding tuxedo, a hush fell over the group. "Carlos, where have you been?" my mother asked anxiously. "The ceremony starts in 30 minutes. Actually, I replied calmly, there will not be a ceremony. Not here, anyway. I walked to the center of the room, making sure I had everyone's attention. All my life, I have tried to be part of this family. I celebrated your achievements, offered support when I could, and longed for your acceptance. When each of you got married, you decided I was not important enough to witness those moments. You excluded me from events that should have brought us closer. My siblings exchanged uncomfortable glances but remained silent. When I found someone who truly loved and valued me, you could not stand it. You systematically worked to destroy the one healthy relationship in my life. You manipulated Natalie, encouraged her infidelity, and celebrated my pain." I turned to Natalie, who was silently crying. "I do not blame you entirely. You were targeted by people who have had decades of practice causing pain. But you made your choices, and now we both have to live with them." Addressing my family again, I continued. "Today I am returning the favor you so generously bestowed on me 3 times before. None of you are invited to my celebration. The real reception is happening elsewhere with people who actually care about my happiness. For once, you are the ones excluded from a family milestone." I pulled out my phone and projected the incriminating texts and videos onto the church wall using a small device I had set up earlier. "I have sent these to everyone in our extended family along with an explanation of why today's plans have changed. You can explain to the other guests why they came to a wedding that is not happening." The shock on their faces gave me no pleasure, only a sense of necessary closure. "Carlos, you cannot do this," Adam sputtered. "We are your family," I smiled sadly. "No, you are my relatives. I have learned that family is earned through love, respect, and support. You have shown me none of those things." As I turned to leave, Sarah called out, "What about the baby? It could be yours." I paused at the door. "If a paternity test shows the child is mine, I will fulfill my responsibilities as a father. But that has nothing to do with any of you. Goodbye." I walked out of the church and drove to the restaurant where 50 people who truly cared about me were waiting. There was no bride, no traditional ceremony, but there was honest connection and support. We ate good food, shared stories, and celebrated not a wedding, but a liberation. The paternity test later confirmed what I had suspected: the child was not mine. Natalie and Thomas eventually got together with my siblings' blessing. They welcomed a daughter the following spring. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work, earning a significant promotion that allowed me to relocate to Seattle. I volunteered at a center for children from broken homes, finding healing and helping others navigate family trauma. Through a mutual friend, I met Shannon, a pediatrician with warm eyes and a genuine laugh. We took things slowly, building a foundation of trust and communication. When I finally shared my full history with her, she held my hands and said something I will never forget. "Those people gave you a gift, though they never intended to. They showed you exactly what family should not be, making you incredibly conscious of what it should be. That awareness makes you incapable of repeating their mistakes." 2 years after my non-wedding, I received wedding invitations from both Julie and Sarah, who were renewing their vows. Adam sent a birth announcement for his second child with a note suggesting I might want to be the godfather. I responded to each with a polite, brief note declining their invitations and wishes to reconnect. There was no anger in my responses, just a clear boundary that I had no interest in re-establishing contact. The truth is, revenge was not as satisfying as I had imagined it would be. What actually healed me was creating distance and building something new. I realized I did not need their approval, acceptance, or even their remorse. I just needed to be true to myself and surround myself with authentic connections. Family is not determined by blood, but by consistent action. Love is shown through presence not just in happy times, but especially in difficult ones. I found my real family and friends who showed up in Shannon, who chose me every day, in Natalie's parents who remained in my life despite everything, and in the children at the center who taught me that resilience can come from the process, deepest wounds. Have you ever had to cut ties with family members for your own well-being? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found my story meaningful, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of healing and self-discovery. Share this with someone who might need to know that sometimes walking away is the first step toward finding your real home. Thank you for listening, and remember, you always deserve to be someone's first choice, never an afterthought.